How good is Keon Coleman? We know he's really, really good, but how good is he, and where will he be drafted in 2024? We're going to answer those questions today with our lead analyst here at Warchant TV, Dominic Robinson. My name is Tom Lang. This has got to be a fun project, Dominic, to go deep dive into Keon Coleman. You're somebody who really appreciates the finer play within the receiver position. So, what did you consider when you were breaking down a player like Keon Coleman, and how much fun did you have looking at number 4 in Garnet and Gold?
Man, this guy is he's absolutely electric. It was a lot of fun. Really, I was looking into I was going to do red zone this week, and I was looking at red zone, and he just kept jumping out. And I just said, you know what, we're gonna pivot. We're gonna take a deeper look into Keon. And obviously, when you do that, you have to look at where is he in relation to the other wideouts in the country. You know, as a fan, every fan base has this. Whenever you watch your guy, you start to think, man, that's the best. There can't be anyone better. And I would say with him, it's definitely rightful that you feel that way, that you think that way. A lot of times it's irrational. I saw the LSU actually. A lot of the clips that we have are LSU clips, but I saw a tweet this week where it was like the best quarterback in the country talks to Tom Rinaldi, and they were talking about Jaden Daniels, who absolutely is a very good player, but he's not the best in the nation,
Right.
and probably not even in the top 5 or 10 maybe. But we all feel that way about our guys, and I'm sure we all feel that way about Keon, and so I wanted to dive in and see, like, is he the best? And what does he do that sort of separates him from the other guys? So like, here's this first clip. And I think in the end, what I found was his ability to make contested catches is just off the charts. And that was, as soon as I turned on the LSU tape on the very first drive of the game, this is what you see. So he's isolated here in the slot. So this is another, thing that you're going to see, is that he's able to be in multiple spaces. He doesn't just play in one spot on one side. So that's always a good sign. He lines up in the slot, runs a slot fade, and this couldn't have been defended any better from a defensive standpoint. If I'm coaching this guy in the secondary, I'm going, yeah, that's covered. And, so what you're seeing here is, a guy chest to chest. He's got eyes on the ball. You're seeing a high point catch. You're seeing the physicality and the strength to hold on to the ball as you're going to the ground. I mean, there's so many points here where this ball should have been, dislocated from him, in terms of the defensive back swatting it. He also is raking his arms, trying to rake his arms off. He doesn't lose it there. And then just the contact with the ground. A lot of times you see that ball come out. And this is sort of the common theme that you're going to see with him is the strength and physicality to finish the catch. This is a clip that we're going to see 100 times. I'm reluctant to use it because we're going to see this thing over and over and over, especially during draft coverage, and if we're lucky enough to get into the playoff and the championship game. But I had to use it because it's another great example of the strength and physicality and athleticism to go up and make this play. It's bigger than just the one-handed catch. Okay, this is a very good route. First of all, this route could have been broken at a much shallower depth, but because the defensive back has space, he's going to continue to step on toes. That's a common theme that you're going to hear me talk about later, that he does a really good job of continuing to climb and make the defensive back uncomfortable by pressing him vertically. Then when he crosses face, and obviously the one-hand catch is off the charts, but the physicality and the strength as the defensive back is trying to, dislodge this ball, is it's incredible. This is again, this is beyond elite level wideout play.
So let me ask a question on that real quick, Dominic, just in terms of putting pressure on the defensive back, stepping on toes. I don't know that I've ever heard that type of a coaching point. So this means just as a receiver, you run at him full speed. And the more you do that for the longer, the more steps that you do that, the more pressure that puts on the defensive back to be reactive rather than be proactive as a defender.
So these guys are elite level athletes also. And so if the more space they have, the more comfortable they are. So our job as a wideout is to make him uncomfortable by closing the space. The less space you have, the less space you have to react. So once I'm within that cushion, now you're uncomfortable and you have to, because your defensive back coach is going to cuss you out if I run past you. So I got to turn and run. I have to retreat. I have to get space. And that's where I'll show you a clip where he does a really good job of that. So here's a clip of the LSU game and a great example of stepping on toes. So this defensive back is really thinking about his coach, and he's going, I do not want coach to cuss me out. I do not want number 4 to run by me and score a touchdown. So I'm going to get out. I'm going to backpedal and I'm going to open and run. Well, a novice wideout would stick his foot in the ground right here, which would allow a guy to use his athleticism to close that space and react. The further I am from you, the easier it is to react to you. The closer you are, the harder it is. So what Keon does is then he takes 2 more steps, and now this is at the point where he's stepping on toes. Then comes the physicality. Okay, so he has great short area quickness, but this guy actually does a decent job, and he goes, okay, I'm not going to allow you to use your quickness. I'm going to get my hands on you. Now you have to be physical to be able to run through that, and then physical obviously at the catch point. And this is where you start to lose guys. Is guys have great short area quickness, but the second you get your hands on them right here, he's done. Keon's not that way. You get your hands on him, he's not done. He's got good strength and physicality. And then the defensive back even does a good job of getting back to the catch point and meeting him there. And there's a physical altercation there too. And it's no problem there either. And that's, again, these are the things that really begin to be separators. Is that, you can have one thing and you can have 2 things, but man, when you can have these multiple things where you can finish plays, you end up with a real special player.
So you're talking about 2 clips against LSU so far, and both of them, the defensive backs coach really can't be mad at his guy in either of those situations.
Not at all, man. Those are both very well covered. The technique is good, but it's a point where one guy is just better than the other guy. And in all honesty, it's a one-on-one, it's a mano-a-mano type situation, and everything in terms of scheme and technique is good. And now it's just about the finish. And Keon has the strength and the ability to finish. I would also say the understanding of route play or route running is really important too. And that understanding that this guy is inside leverage at this point. So I could easily just stick the wide out here could just stick his right foot in the ground and go to this post. And, because that's the way that it's drawn on a piece of paper. But he knows that guy is inside of me. So you'll see he widens just enough so that when this guy gets hands on, now I have I have a more clear path in terms of going to this post, and I'm not going to get pushed from here all the way, to the other side, to the other safety. So I can still keep a good angle for my quarterback and finish on this play instead of getting pushed too far past the hash right there.
So it's simple, the nuance of just maybe widening your route a little bit outside, maybe flashing the hips towards the sideline to make him
just enough.
Yep.
It's a subtle move, that, again, most people see this finish and they go, wow, this guy's so good. He's so big. He's so fast. But that little bit allows him to use his strength to his advantage, allows him to use his speed to his advantage. And that's where, you have the difference between a good college player and then a guy that can be successful at the professional level.
Mm.
So another one of the separators for him is his ability to run after the catch. And so here's another clip of the purple and gold LSU game. Really nothing fancy about this at all. This is just a double slant route up top against zone coverage. So it's zone because it's 3/2 with the safety pushing over the top here. And it's a catch. You break a tackle, you make a guy miss, and you're out the gate. And so on the year, Keon has he's forced 8 missed tackles at this point, which is somewhere near like 30th in the country in terms of wideout. So he's at the top of wideout play in terms of making guys miss. Either that's breaking tackles or making guys miss. And that again is something that most guys with his size don't necessarily have. It's very reminiscent of last year's draft with Quentin Johnson, was a 6'4", 215-pound wideout, and he led the country in missed tackles and forced missed tackles. He had 18 forced missed tackles. In his career, he had 45 in 3 seasons. He had 45 forced missed tackles, which is incredible for a guy 215 pounds. The guy was just absolutely electric after the catch, and that's him and Keon. I'm guessing are going to have very many comparisons when draft time comes around, because there's a lot of similarities in their size and their ability. The big separator is, at this point, Keon has 0 drops. He hasn't dropped a single football, which is just ridiculous. Quentin Johnson had an 11% drop rate and dropped 8 balls in his senior season, or his final season there.
That's crazy to me, D-Rob, because if he's forced 8 missed tackles so far, it's not like we throw a lot of underneath stuff to Keon. I mean, last week there was a little hitch and he scored on that play, but that was because of the cushion the defensive back was giving Keon. It's not like we devise a lot of tunnel screens or slants. Most everything that Keon has been down the field this year, where there are less opportunities to force a missed tackle. So that he has 8, even with that being true, is pretty impressive.
It is. It's like I said, it's off the charts. In terms of it, really, even if he wasn't a bigger bodied, guy, I wouldn't necessarily call him big body, but even if he was a little Tyreek Hill type, to have that many forced missed tackles, it is a heck of a trait to have. And he, like you said, he's not schemed in a lot of positions where he's catching nows and looks, short tunnel screens, things like that, where you're in positions to break tackles. He actually is he's caught 7 deep balls. So he has 7 deep catches, which is 31st in the country. So he's catching as many deep balls as anybody, or almost the most amount of deep balls as anybody, which aren't really opportunities for missed tackles or broken missed tackles and forcing missed tackles. Usually those are catch, touchdown, catch, tackle, because you're out in open space. So yeah, the opportunities are probably way less than a guy who's catching a bunch of screens. So it's pretty impressive. Here's an example of what you were talking about, just a short screen, which again goes back to his ability to catch and make guys miss in short area space. Now, there's nothing sexy about this. This isn't flashy or anything, but when he catches this ball, he's at -1, maybe -2, and he's got 2 guys that are unblocked right here. So if when I'm coaching guys, I'm always talking about falling forward, And, no play should be less than 2 yards because your body length is 2 yards. So right here, I'm looking at two guys unblocked and thinking, if I can get 2 yards on this, that's a heck of a play for us because they beat us on this play. They got us. Well, he doesn't just get 2; he ends up getting 6 here. That should, and he catches, like I said, he catches it -2 with 2 guys right there on him. This is, I can't tell you how important this is to an offense on a first down to get 6 yards, to make one guy miss, and then to have the power and the strength to fall forward here. And now we're in 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3, as opposed to being in 2nd and 8 and 2nd and 9, as you should have been. These things are indescribable, and they're overlooked in terms of, again, this isn't flashy. You can't put this on a highlight necessarily, but if you're coaching a guy, and if you're coaching against a guy, you hate to have this happen. This is here, short area quickness, making that guy miss, and then again, the strength and ability to fall forward. I do want to point out here the difference between most of these catches and then this catch is this is scheming this guy to get the ball.
Mhm.
And I would say the difference between Keon and other guys, potentially in the draft is we don't do a whole lot of scheming to get him open. Most of his catches, he's winning battles against other guys, against one-on-one matchups. He's a phenomenal isolation route runner where some of these other receivers, Malik Neighbors is one of them that plays for LSU that's ranked ahead of him. That is, he's got 20 more targets than Keon. And the reason is he's schemed a lot to get open. A lot of the things are just, the offensive scheme, moving a guy, shifting a guy that puts him in position to get open. Okay, so here's LSU against us, and Malik Neighbors is the wideout up top. And what we're going to see is an example of scheming a guy to get open. This is any jersey that has a scholarship can do what he does on this play, but I got to get the ball in his hands because he's our best player. So they send him in motion to try to get movement from the defense, and then he's going to run underneath, and they're just running it over with him to get him out in space and see if he can make somebody miss. This is something, there's not a scholarship receiver in the country that couldn't do this. He's not beating anybody. He's not running past anybody. He doesn't have to have a good route. He's just going to a space. This is a zone concept, and they're just trying to get the ball into his hands. And this is an example of, on a lot of those other plays we saw, Keon's not going in motion. He's lined up. He's even on the single receiver side, and then he's running a route, and that, he's running in isolation as opposed to being schemed to get him open, to get him in space.
Seems like a pretty easy takeaway here that if you can do your own heavy lifting, you're more valuable to a professional franchise than somebody that I've got to free up.
Absolutely. And there's guys that are, phenomenal schemed open guys. I'm not saying that you can't be great at doing that, but eventually you get into a position where you got to win a one-on-one. That's really the name of football, is like, if we can block and tackle and win one-on-ones, then we have a chance. And I can't call 40 perfect plays as an offensive coordinator. At some point, the players have to make plays. And that's something that Keon does incredibly well. So for those of you who are going to get upset and go, well, why don't we scheme them open? Why don't we scheme them open more? It's not that your coach doesn't scheme them open. He definitely does. There's definitely opportunities. He just doesn't live in that world, partially because he doesn't have to. But here's an example of scheming a guy open, or scheming Keon open here. They send another very good player in motion, which is going to get attention, and they end up in this stack look out here, to the 3 receiver side, and he's absolutely schemed open here. The ball doesn't find him, But I did want to just point out that your guy, your coaches, and it's still a positive play, so we don't have to freak out of why didn't Jordan throw it. He definitely threw it into trouble here, but he's got another playmaker on the other side, and this is why your team is special. Is you got more than one guy, but I did want to just show and point out that number 4 is schemed open here, and the ball just doesn't find him, and that happens from time to time. But you know what? Another thing I love, he knew he was open. You see, he's not freaking out. A lot of guys at this point in time, they would be freaking out and come cuss the quarterback out or whatever. I'm sure he came back to the huddle and said, "Hey, man, I was there." But I did want to show that clip just to show that your guy's getting schemed open at times. It's just not as much as some of these other teams. Keon at this point has 61 targets on the season. Malik Neighbors has 81 targets on the season. So ball's being spread out a lot more in this offense, and that's a good thing. So here's another great example of his physicality, his route running ability, and then short area quickness. So right now, Clemson is in a bracket. This nickel or corner, this might be a Sam. I think this is a nickel, and the safety are bracketing him. So they're playing in and out, and he knows that right now. So at this point, he knows in order to beat a bracket, I got to beat the guy that's playing the leverage in which I want to go. So he knows he's running an outbreaking route right here. He's going to run an outbreaking route this way, and this defender is playing outside leverage. So I have to get rid of him. And so he attacks the outside shoulder, stretches him, knowing that guy is going to protect that. At this point now, we get back to the point that I made earlier about stepping on toes. You don't want to make a move far from this guy. He makes a move while he's on this guy's toes and he's uncomfortable. When he does that, that guy has to open his hips and run. Now we're talking about the physicality. He absolutely just throws this guy. That's a 7-yard rounded break that the cornerback has, the nickelback. I mean, that's absolutely just demolishing a guy that's trying to guard you his best, and is on scholarship just like you. There's so many good points here in terms of, again, the short area quickness to make that move, the physicality, and then the spatial awareness to know I have an outbreaking route, so I got to make that guy protect his outside, and then I'm going to move him. I'm going to move him outside, knowing he's going to protect it. And then when he does, I'm going to force him to open his hips and run. And then when he does it, I'm just going to throw him by and win on an out. Again, there's a lot there in terms of just really high level wideout play.
That's crazy. So yeah, folks at home, that's essentially just destroying a double team. They're trying to double team him and it doesn't work, because there are times where, you'll hear an analyst or you'll say, why don't you just double their best player? Clemson tries to do that in that situation. The best defense that Florida State has seen so far this season tries to do that, and they just lose in spectacular fashion. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. It's you love to see it, man. So our final clip here, Keon's down here at the bottom. We're looking for, he's going to run a slant and go, a sluggo route. You'll see the difference between the route at the top and the route at the bottom is really the nuance of wide receiver play and what makes him such a special guy. A lot of it goes back to what I said before, the short area quickness and route running ability, and then stepping on toes, making the cornerback uncomfortable. So it would have been easy, because a slant is usually a 3-step route, for him to stick his slant, show like he's running a slant right now. And that's what the guy up top does. Now, he is getting a little bit different technique, the wideout up top. That corner is playing a hard corner, as opposed to down here at the bottom, you're getting a soft corner, the corner's backpedaling. So there's a difference. I do understand that. But you can see He is climbing as much as he can, and he knows right at this point, I now can sell the slant. Now that's 10 yards down the field. You don't ever necessarily really run a slant at 10 yards. You could run a glance in that area, but just understanding that if I sell this too early, this guy can react. Well, if I get up to him, if I get to this point now, he can't react if I stick him inside. He sticks him inside. Again, there's a little bit of, there could have been some contact there, physicality run through that arm, and it's a touchdown. It's a 50-yard touchdown. This is just, it doesn't get any better. This is the highest level of, he has the speed, the know-how, and the ability to finish this thing off. And again, he's got no drops on on contested catches. He's got no drops on deep balls. He's almost leading the country in deep catches. It'll be hard. You'll be hard pressed to find a wideout better than Keon Coleman, and these are the things that make him special.
So let's talk about that in terms of it's as good as it gets. Like that could mean a lot of things, Dominic, and I hear where you're going with this, but it could mean that's as good as it gets in the ACC or Power 5 or the country or as a draft prospect. So when you're looking at these finer points of Keon Coleman's game, all the boxes that he checks off, I know you mentioned a wide receiver last year in Quentin Johnson from TCU that was drafted pretty high. In fact, it was 21st overall, first round of the draft to the LA Chargers. How does Keon Coleman fit into the conversation as you see it? Where should he go in April?
There's no way that you can take him past 20th. This guy is as dynamic as they come. Run after catch, short area quickness, physicality, length, strength. You saw it in those clips. There's one guy that I would say is right there with him and probably better than him. Marvin Harrison, of course, but I can't imagine, and I looked at a couple other guys, and I don't see two guys better than him. I just don't see it, and we're very, very fortunate to have him on our side for this year, and hopefully he can keep it going and stay healthy and do all the things he's been doing, because he's a phenomenal player.
So in the grand scheme, last question I'll ask you, Dominic, in the grand scheme of the NIL era, grabbing a player like this, did Mike Norvell hit a home run, 2-run home run, 3-run home run, or a grand slam?
It's a 5-run home run. It doesn't get any better, because he also he brings an attitude that fits us. He brings he's a good teammate. He's a punt returner. I didn't even put any of the punt return clips on here. He's what he is and who he seems to be as a person, as a teammate, and just the pride. You can already feel like he has pride in being a Seminole in this short amount of time that he's been there. So yeah, Norvell killed it along with Jaheim Bell. He killed it with those guys, and we're very fortunate to have him on our side.
I can tell you, too, just from seeing practice, that Keon Coleman will walk over to a young receiver or a lesser experienced receiver like a Deuce Spann or a Hakeem Williams, and he will go over technique while they're doing all 11s, maybe with the 2s running out there. He will pull them inside and instruct them on hand placement, on technique. Dominic, this guy is somebody that moves the culture forward, and I know as a coach now in this iteration of your football career, that's also invaluable, that you have somebody who's taking time out of their day to make your younger players better for when you leave. That's something that's ingrained in somebody.
It is, man. That's a program changer. When you can add character and ability to your program, there's nothing better. If you would have just added a very high character player that didn't have this ability, that would have been a big, because of the moment that we're in right now in terms of building this program, that would have been huge for the program. But when you can also make it that he's one of the best players in the country and has high character, and he wants to push the program forward and grow these guys and put these guys in positions to succeed, You've got a once in 1 in 100, chance or a 1 in 100 situation that it's just not going to be. You definitely can't depend on it because we're seeing all over the country situations that are not the same. Guys transferring in it not being this special situation.
It's very easy to say that Keon Coleman's so good he's going to go in the first round. Not as easy to prove it and show materially why. That's why Dominic Robinson is here on Warchant TV. Hit the like button underneath the video. Subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free. We will be back with another video next week, and it's Miami week next time we sign on, so we're looking forward to that breakdown. Thank you for watching this video on Warchant TV, and for Dominic Robinson, Director Ben behind the scenes, who is the master of making us all look good, I'm Tom Lang. We'll talk to you next time.